It's shocking, eh? 2 episodes in 1 month. Wow.
Yes.
And episode 2 of 2024.
Yeah, adulting. Okay. Hi.
Hi! Welcome to Adults Come.
Hi. So please ignore my aunt look. I decided
And this shirt that I am always wearing, morning, noon, and night. My post Instagram story. This is what I was wearing.
It's house clothes. If you have a problem, please buy another one. Don't buy another
Actually, oversized shirt is not a bad thing. So, welcome to another episode. It's shocking, eh? 2 episodes in 1 month. Wow.
one. Yes. Sorry. Disclaimer, please. In the last video that I was editing, my eyes were looking like. First, I was looking tired. 1, 2. At a point, I'm even surprised that nobody commented on that my eyes were just giving bad vibes. But please, when I'm just
Conscious.
Meanwhile, thank you for all the comments and all the support. Thank you for the people that shared. I went and opened one WhatsApp group like this and I saw somebody had shared it to the group, even though you did not watch the video. But thank you to the person
You when
that
they
shared.
send video on group, please to watch.
It depends. Well, if I see a fine video like the one that
Wow.
what shall we watch?
Wow.
Oh yes, okay, sorry, back to you.
So here we have brought another fine video your way. So
See this thing, I don't know why people do it because it's stressful. Okay, I must channel into my inner journey. So this is way too much.
in the spirit of it's January, so there's one thing we want to talk about today. See, we have more energy. So what we're talking about today is when there is zero motivation, like when you have no motivation to do what you need.
I wanted us to talk about public proposals. Sorry, I just okay, continue.
So when there is zero motivation to do public proposals,
Yeah. I think
so back to the serious topic that we want to talk about, because now I don't know waiting on long this shop.
Holy Ghost. Okay, sorry.
We will start this video. We will start. So recently, or maybe in the last few weeks or so, I've been, or like I've had this thing where it's like, how to say, you know that thing where you're not so gingered for anything, like you know all those things of the kingdom wealth that you're going to build, and this one and that one, and
That was not where I was expecting it to start from.
that's cool. Well, right? So like it's like I don't know. I wasn't feeling like I care so much. Like I'm just like,
Well, it is what it is.
and you know it's kind of a bad thing, right? Because it's sort of like you're just not interested in the things that drive or motivate you. You're just literally going through life, right? And then it's worse when life is now not giving you.
The motivation.
Do you understand? So now it's like, okay, for the future that you want to future it. I hope I started this video. Yeah? Wait first, let me check. Okay, it's playing. Okay.
Ha. Ha. Like I went for an NTA. See, I will call NTA out. I went for an NTA interview. And then we had started going through the process. Like, but you know, we got like 5-10 minutes. And then the guy comes and says, oh, something about like when your hand started moving, it was.
Move your hands.
We're just like, it's okay. So we're like, okay, let's just start again from the question. So they actually asked him all the questions. I was like,
Yes.
yes.
Wow, what's our name to you?
Oh yes, we
In
are.
the floating studio.
No, 1 second thoughts, don't go and watch me. It's fine.
So yeah, so it's kind of like you're not really, you don't have the zeal for things that maybe used to give you zeal before, and it's sort of like a thing where now you have to go back to God and be like, okay, so what's really going on? Is it that I'm not as concerned, or like I'm not as stressed out about these things, and I'm in that place of rest, like last when you want it to happen, it will happen, or I'm actually something is something negative, like I have lost um motivation for something, or I no longer have the drive, yeah. Sort of like you don't have the hope as much as before.
Right.
So it's sort of like a feeling of what's despondency. That's a bit. It's
Despondency, apathy.
yeah, I guess it's apathy. Yeah. So like you're just not. You don't have the strength for it. You don't have this. Do you understand? And I think because now, because of the context of like the Nigeria that we are living in, and I guess just the world in general, where it seems like maybe sometimes maybe because you put in efforts, and it seems like you're not gotten to where you want to be, or you're in a period where you're waiting for something, and in that waiting period you really don't want to do anything else. Like you're just like, okay, let me know what is going to go next with my life. So it's this. I feel like yeah, it happens to a lot of us, I assume, and so that's what we wanted to talk about today. Like when you don't have motivation to do the things that ideally you would do. Number one, you don't have motivation to pursue the things that you know God would have you pursue, right? So have you had like
No man. What are we talking about? What? Yo, when I keep saying 2023, the funny thing is that 2023 was not like a bad year.
2023 was like it had everything.
Yes,
it was like good and
good. It was
combined, like everything.
So
combined,
definitely last year was when like that motivation. Well, to be honest, I think my own struggle with motivation has gone a lot longer than just 2023. To be very honest with you, being in Nigeria.
I remember.
Let me just.
I have one of my aunts said that Nigeria will crush your dreams
And
to kill your dreams.
To be very honest, seeing as I understand where she's coming from. To be very honest, I can understand where she's coming from.
Because you know the time I was talking to I was talking to Mr. Santos, right? And it's like in Nigeria you get to a point where you're just trying to survive. Like even your dreams and ambitions, you don't even have the time to pursue. You
just need to exactly. So I think like for me, I definitely say that being in Nigeria, because like motivation, right? So there's intrinsic motivation and there's extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic is motivation coming from within yourself, and then there's extrinsic, which is from outside, right? And so in a situation where you have a dream to set up a school, for example, so the intrinsic motivation that you're getting from that is the fact that you want to touch lives and you enjoy the impact that you are putting in, right? And the effort that you're putting in to bring about impact, right? So that's you putting your talent into use and everything. So that's coming from within you. Then there's the external part of it, which is obviously you're gonna get money. Like there's no how you say it. They're going to give you money. Even if, although with school business, because with school business it takes time to make money, but like the feedback that you get from people, like is motivation in and of itself, right? And so the balance of the two is important, because as much as yes, internal motivation is important, if there is no external reward for what you're doing, the motivation is going to reduce. And as much as I think it's easy to say, no, let your internal motivate you. That's easy to say in other parts of the world. When I was not living in Nigeria, I think I held that belief very strongly. But guy, when you live in this country, the worst part is like, okay, fine, even if I'm not getting the motivation, but the demotivation is like, you are not even working at zero anymore, you are negative, right? And so it's like, between the people who are discouraging you, between the fact that you're spending money, so still on the school example, you're spending money every day to run maybe generators, whatever, people are not paying, and so at the end of the day, it's using more, or it's taking, it's using up your energy, it's taking more from you than than what it is actually giving to you, right? And at the end of the day, in as much as you want to be like, oh yes, I'm giving back to society or whatever, you're not dealing with children that they don't have sense. Like, no matter what you're doing, the efforts that you're putting are not yielding the results. At least even if they are not paying the money, right? Let it be that okay, you are using your skills and you're seeing the transformation in their lives. That one, we'll see 'em. So at the end of the day, it's like that is the fastest way to kill motivation, right? And I think that unfortunately that is something that happens in this country a lot, right? And so at the end of the day, the passion to live is replaced with the drive to survive, right? And so at the end of the day, you're just going through the motions, right? And like I've always said, last year that was me at the finest at the finest definition of surviving instead of thriving, right? And so definitely something that we all experience, right?
And I don't think it's like, sorry, it's not like Nigeria alone, right? Because for
I mean,
example,
yes, fair enough.
if you're living in like the UK, where what's the money in, money out, like your money is gone before it has even entered, like when you think of all the places you want to allocate it to. I think, you know what, let's even say more for like when you're in that season in your life where you're trying to like maybe build a career, so you're not yet in your career, you're in a work. So I remember one time in King's Church there was this seminar that we had. I was the one who spoke. It was about work and career, so it was like the difference between work and career. So I was telling them that I'm in my work phase of life because like whatever I'm doing now is not necessarily what I want to do as a career, obviously.
So that you needed to
do. So like a lot of us are in that career phase of life, and that career phase of life is draining you. So you don't not career work. That work phase of life is draining you. So you don't even have the strength or motivation a lot of times to focus on the career or building towards that career. So for example, I might be working in a supermarket as a manager, and that's not what I went to school to do. If that's what you want to do, that's great too. But like for me as a person, sorry, no. And like for example, a lot of people go to school. I was saying a lot of people study economics and bakers in this country.
A lot of people that study psychology and doing every random thing.
So like for some people, they went to university, but then they were not planning to use that degree, and they are fine with not using that degree. I'm not one of those people who want to not use my degree. Like I want to actually do school, right? Stuff related to it. So imagine now I'm in that managerial position and I'm just trying to pay my bills, and the bills will not stop, right? So for example, I might need to take a course in econometrics and I don't even have the time
or the money.
Do you understand? All my money is going into bills, and so like to even pay for that course, I am not able to pay for it. So it's like, when does it end? When does it stop? And so at the end of the day, you don't even you just get used to living that living thing. I don't want to go through the motions. So, you don't know that song.
We were made to thrive.
How are those going on like this? But yes, when you're focused so much on just what you're trying to do at the moment and just getting by, it can be very exhausting. And I think this is in every economy, every country. It's just that Nigeria's own is different because you're not even seeing the results of all the bills you're paying. Right?
Yes.
So if it's one, you're paying 25% of your salary goes into light bills, but you have the lights. Well, this one where you will spend on lights, you will spend on generator, and even then it does not mean you will do 24 hours of light, because who are you deceiving? So unless you are going to buy an inverter, you have the generator. If you have an inverter, that's great, that's good. But then when you're thinking about it, like, this is a rented house. Oh, come on, we're spending money on an inverter. All those kind of things. And having an inverter does not mean this our house, we have water. All sorts of things. So it's like, so I'm spending so much time and energy and I'm not even seeing it. And I think also like, part of it also, let us talk about the spiritual aspect of it, is the devil is trying to drag you into hopelessness. I remember after last year's elections, I said they spray something in the air to try and make people to be hopeless, or maybe it was just the fact that you see all your efforts and then everything
was the weight of the disappointment, because there was the same way before the election, there was all that excitement and we were looking forward to something. So by the time the reality of what was before us came, there
Yeah.
was now that disappointment, right? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like I definitely, this is not one of those subjects that I'd be like, oh, okay, so my tips are,
We're still going through
we are still going through the motions, right? And I think one thing I would say though that like has kind of worked for me, right? I think I've mentioned this somewhere before, was that this year I made the intentional effort not to join that rat race again,
Yeah.
right? Because I was having a conversation with someone recently, and then I was like, oh, I'm still on holiday. And there are a lot of reasons why I say that, because I don't want to give details to people as to what is actually going on in my life. But I'm like, I'm on holiday, right? And someone now goes like, on 20th of January or something like that. I'm like, you don't know what I've been through. And
You
one thing
don't know.
and one thing that people always do, right, is to assume that, okay, because everybody else is going, so it's like a stampede, just go with the flow of everything. So because everybody is resuming work on 3rd of January, you too, you join them to resume work on 3rd of January. No direction, no motivation, no understanding of where you're going. What's the point of that? I'd rather take my time, and this is something that I've said this year. I don't send anybody. I will take my time, right? So it's like, understand what I'm really doing, ensure that I'm grounded, I'm balanced, I'm solid in that space, right? Now, everybody may not have the luxury of doing this, but there's a way that you will come to peace in your mind.
Yeah.
That even if you're moving
Yeah.
actively, because I've mentioned this on my podcast though, but like there's a book that I read at the beginning. Yeah, I was not going to, that was not a side note, but like the book talks about the power of positive thinking, and he mentions the fact that it is not physical exhaustion that makes people to be so disturbed, right? It is the emotional upheaval that makes you to be disbalanced, right? So at the end of the day, even if you're really busy, but then you're emotionally balanced, it's not going to affect you.
Yeah.
But if you're not even doing anything and your mind is not at rest, you understand, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, no matter the phase that you're in, whether you can actually afford to take the break and hands off everything completely, which most times, let's be honest, you can. Because I've come to the realization that, see, if I die today, people, the best that they will do is that they will post me everywhere on Instagram, and then they will do moments of silence. After that, everybody moves on with their life, right? So at the end of the day, it's more important that I'm putting in the effort and taking the time away to ensure that I am sound, right? Because once again, if you're mentally disturbed, they will only tell you sorry. I promise you, as much as people really care about you,
Emma, she's
as much as they care about you, they are not going to be able to help you beyond a certain point. That is you completely your own responsibility, right? So if you can take the time off and hands off everything, by all means do that. If you cannot, work on your mind, right? So like there are different tools, resources, whatever that you can use to help you get your mind in the right space, right? Because at the end of the day, if you now decide to keep going through that zero motivation and you're just pushing yourself and pushing yourself, you are going to burn out at a point. And then when people start talking about, oh, suicide, everybody is like, why would you commit suicide? It's from that club that dance used to start. Sure, you understand? So at the end of the day, it's like really important that you do what you need to do now. Understand what it is. And sometimes, you're going to have to go a complete 360. Right? Like for me also this year, I've had to come to the place where I'm like, okay, this thing that I've been shouting up and down, that is my career path. I'm like, yes, I still will maintain elements of that, but at the end of the day, I'm looking to switch to something different based on my strengths and everything, right? So at the end of the day, you might need to actually switch from that thing that you're doing, that you're just going through the motions every day. Because like what you were saying, if at the end of the day, you're being paid 100,000 of whichever currency you're working with, you're being paid 100,000, and then you're using 80,000 to pay bills and do whatever. You might as well, and then the 20
transport to go and pay those bills.
And then the remaining 20 is like, you don't even understand where it's going. You might as well take a break. Maybe you need to look at, okay, in the next 3 months I want to leave this job that I'm doing and start saving money that at least keep you for 1 month while you figure out what you want to do. Because a lot of times we are so afraid of moving on from places that we're actually dying in.
And a lot of times, sometimes, God will have mercy on you and you block your other place.
There is actually.
And
I know be village people.
Bread,
Don't be village people.
yeah, stories. But like, and you'll realize like if you actually, if you
You're
were,
sensitive.
yeah, you know that you know that this was the time to leave, and maybe number one, okay, maybe you didn't have the mind to tell the person I wanted to wait. So it's like, okay, fine, either way,
Yeah.
I'm not the one who could drop a letter and say I'm leaving, I'm going.
And if you want to down, if you run out.
Yeah, but either way, it's like you're going to be shocked out of your, because at the end of the day, you probably needed it anyway, right? So
Because if you're not making progress, it's a different thing. It's like, okay, fine, even that one, you can make progress and
yeah,
still be
because
frustrated.
I know there was that episode we did of There Is Much Life Than
Really?
Yeah, and so in such a situation, right, you now would need to understand like, okay, what is your purpose in life, this and that. And to be honest, yeah, sometimes even that purpose in life, you have no motivation for it either.
Yes.
So
I think that's another, sorry to cut you, but that's another misconception. The idea that
Yeah.
when you're working in purpose, everything will be sweet.
No. Because you know, I was like, okay,
Ew.
God, my purpose is to know you and to make you known. I can't know you in heaven. We can be fellowship in heaven. Do you know there's another fellowship?
I know. Then, but I mean, think about it, right? Like even that, which is like what you just said now, the fact that the purpose, the core, at the very core of your existence as a Christian. If you're not a Christian, please go and give your life to Jesus. But like the core of your existence as a Christian is to know God and to make Him known, right? Even knowing God and making Him known, there are times when it's not interesting, right? But just like with, like my dad always says this thing, you don't eat because you want to eat every day of the week. You eat because you know you need strength, right? And so even the times when you're not necessarily enjoying the food, you keep at it. However, if you now go and you keep on eating and for 3 months you don't feel like eating and you're still, you need to go see a doctor, right? Because there's something deeper that is wrong. Like you have a condition that you need to address so that you can now be okay again. Because at the end of the day, we're not saying you won't have spells of lack of motivation.
Oh.
I know all of us were dealing with it. But the point is, at what point do you now say that this has gone beyond the normal ups and downs of life, and now you're at a point where you need help? You might need to see a therapist, you might need to talk to your pastor, you might need to reevaluate your life. Whatever it is that you need to do, you might need to actually get that sorted so that at the end of the day, you don't now go into a life of just living the mundane. Because like Casting Crowns, the song, we were made for more than just survival, right? We're supposed to thrive. And so if you are surviving for 10 years, 15 years, it's the point of life.
Right. Yeah. So because I think that knowing the period when it's like a concern. So for example, it might be happening for a week. Like for how I'm feeling now, say, for however long it has been going on. Personally, yeah, it's probably a case of just continue living life one day at a time. I think one thing I'm learning is not paying as much attention to my emotions sometimes. So for example,
That's true.
those periods where you sit down, let's be real, and you're wondering, God, are you really good? As I'm reading this Old Testament,
Yeah.
it seems like say you can be very harsh on people, right? And your mind starts going into all sorts of things, right? And in your head, you have started to deviate from the path of righteousness, right? Sometimes it's for you to even stop thinking.
Yeah.
Neither good, neither bad. Don't think anything, and you realize that maybe after 1 hour, even after a few minutes, or after a few days, like
you look back and
your
you're
brain,
like, what was I thinking?
you understand. So however you're feeling in the moment, like, oh, I feel so purposeless and pointless and everything, sometimes you're just going to have to unplug from it, wake up in the morning, pray to the Lord. If you don't really have the energy to pray, sing to the Lord, read your Bible, go and eat food, go and, like, don't give it so much power, right? Then now you need to now know when it's like extending beyond. So when it's affecting your regular activities, things that you know you need to do, and now you're not able to do them because, well, you're just like, what's the point, right? So you have responsibilities, like, what's the point, right? Knowing when you need to work on it, knowing when you need to just take rest. I think like that's like super important, because to be honest, yeah, it's just how life can be. And so that you know now come and say you have problems when you don't actually have problems. and so that you won't ignore the things that need to be addressed, because it's like, it's just one of these things. After 2 years, it's just one of these things. So
and like the human at the end of the day, like there's a part of us that's actually lazy, whether you like it or not, right? And so there's like the laziness part of it, and then there's like the self-sabotage part of it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're just being lazy and you need to fight against that laziness, and you will overcome it, right?
Yeah.
So like when you're going through the process of developing a habit, if you stop, you end up regressing and going further back than when you started from. So if you keep at it, you'll be able to overcome that. And then sometimes also, if we're honest with ourselves, like we're actually afraid of success, right? And so when it starts looking like we are getting to where we did not imagine that we could be, your brain now quickly does a whole hey, wait, no, actually I don't think I'm actually interested in this. Oh, okay, no,
it's like, what's the point?
And then it's like, oh my god, like I can actually be this successful. Like, is it okay for me to be this successful? When I say this, trust me, my mind does this thing also. Like, am I not too young to be like all starting out things by myself? Maybe I should actually still be working somewhere, helping somebody else. But when you now start helping the person out, they're stressing your life. You're looking at them and you're like, this doesn't make any sense, right? Or you're feeling like, oh no, maybe I should still be someone who's being paid salary. And then worse still is when no shade to older people, there are wonderful older people that give great advice, but there are some of them that they want to carry their own suffering and misery and whatever they went through growing up into your own life. And so they'll tell you things like, oh no, you must have a time to be a servant. That is true. Very, very, very true. However, sometimes what they actually want to do is that they just want to manipulate you and keep you in a place where you're constantly begging instead of
like servanthood is something, it's our life as Christians. Right?
Yes,
it's your entire being. So when you have the money,
servanthood, not
you're not a servant.
Slave.
No, I don't think anybody is ever supposed to be a servant in terms of like a slave. Do you understand?
Yeah.
We're all supposed to have a servant heart,
like,
right? Not okay, we might have a period where you are working under somebody, but it's never supposed to be in terms of like
they are using you.
It's not supposed to be like that, right? Whatever training you are going through is not because God is trying to rubbish you. Do you understand? Whatever humility is trying to teach you, he can teach you when you have made it in life.
Yeah.
You can
and there's something that so Bench, the photographer, like my mom says Bench. But like when he got married, there was something that, well, first of all, he did not allow people to know he married until God knows how long. And then so like when the wedding clip eventually came out, I think he was doing his speech, he was talking about the fact that something like he was wondering if he's ready for marriage, but like with growth, you're never really ready, but you still have to grow, right? I don't think if you ask a child that is learning how to walk, are you ready to walk? They're probably going to be like, no, and if you let the child stay in that place, they're never going to walk, right? And then you end up having a crippled child because you are petting the child, right? You need to get up and have the child move and make the mistakes and fall and everything. It's part of the process, right? So at the end of the day, I think sometimes we get so caught up in the idea that there's going to be a time when we'll finally be able to say that, okay, I have reached, and then, or there'll be a place where all the motivation is in the bag, and then you have the motivation to go all the way. Lies from the pit of hell. There, stand up and walk.
Yeah.
Literally, stand up and walk, right? And so at the end of the day, it's like when you're now doing it afraid, you begin to find, as you try it the first time and you discover, oh, okay, I learned this and now I can do this better. You pick up and then that gives you a little more motivation to be like, okay, if I could do this that time, it means I can do it again this time, right? And so at the end of the day, like we said, we have not figured it out 100%, but it's just as we are also going on our own journey and watching other people, also watching ourselves and everything, and trying to see how we can all be motivated.
So in case you are going through a period in your life where like you're just feeling lack of motivation for anything,
everything, you're not alone.
You're not alone at all. And yeah, I think one thing is just the most important of it all is your trust and faith in Jesus. Like, that is what will keep you. Like, even in those times where it's like your spiritual life is no
spiriting,
right? But just having God with you and knowing that
The assurance of God.
Yeah, like as you're going through it, you're not alone. But at the end of the day, what makes us different as believers is that we have hope, right? Here on earth and after, right? So that even if we're all going physically, we might all be going through the same thing, but then inside it might be something else. But I remember like one day was it? When was this week, right? So that I went downstairs to switch on the generator. I mean, an expert gen dragger. It's not supposed to be a good thing, but yeah. Then I spoke to the neighbor having issues with our water pump and everything, and so he said that too. We'll need to get another one. We'll need to get another one, automatic, mommy, right? So I was like, that one is my dad that's gonna deal with it. I'll go. I was coming up like what came to my mind. You know, there's I don't know that Proverbs verse. I'm not sure if that's what it actually says, but then like she laughs with no fear of the future. Right? So I'm just like, what? I'm just gonna I will be happy and I'll relax through whatever situation. Like this year I don't want any billing or money matter to stress me or make me sad. I'll just be like, so if I can afford it, great. If I can't,
It is what it is.
so if you help for generator finish and I don't get money to to buy the because it's inside the dark and everybody will be fine, right? So I think just not giving power to the things that tend to drag you down, right? Because even if yes, the Nigerian environment can be very deliberately choosing not to be stressed, like intentionally deciding that, you know what, this is happening.
Yeah.
like
actually intentionally
Yeah.
making the decision, because at the end of the day, like the power lies in your
Yeah.
mind. Like whatever you allow your mind to dwell on will determine the
Yeah.
trajectory of your life. Right? So
Yeah.
like if you make the intentional effort to put your mind in the space where you can do it, right? Because if you keep telling if you wake up every morning and you tell yourself you cannot do it, I promise you will never do it. It's not a curse. And the people that wake up every morning and keep pushing and everything, it's not necessarily, apart from the ones that steal money, there's that, but like it's not necessary. Even to steal the money, last you have to tell yourself every morning that you can actually steal the money and
I
not
don't
get
get
caught,
caught.
right? So at the end of the day, like your mind plays such a big part in your success or failure, and I think even with motivation, right? You have to psych your mind to the place where it is willing to agree that yes, it is motivated. So maybe that's actually a thing you can actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe wake up every morning and tell yourself I am motivated to
Yeah, like you know that thing like when you want to get up but then you just really don't want to get up. This is like,
so you tell yourself
get
I'm
up.
motivated, tell yourself
Like,
I'm motivated to
yeah.
face the day. I am motivated, and I think if you do that for like a month or two, you will begin to see the actual impact of it. I feel like this video has been going on for a long time. It might not be as long as I think it is.
True. But yeah, hope this is meaningful to somebody and you can do this. You've got this.
You can do it.
2024 is not going to consume anybody in Jesus' name.
Amen.
So yeah, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like,
Share,
subscribe,
comment,
tell a friend,
tell another friend,
and tell your family members
and everybody that you know.
Send it 10 times a day to them.
Yep.
Thank you so much and take care of yourself. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.